In the Appalachian Mountains, there are hollows where the sun seems to hang back, where daylight feels reluctant to spill in, and night settles faster than it does anywhere else. Folks around here don't talk about those hollows much. They'll just shake their heads and say, "Ain't nothing for you down that way." I didn't believe in that kind of talk when I first moved here. My wife Emily had inherited her late uncle's property, a narrow farmhouse tucked deep in one of these hollows. The kind where the gravel road winds so far back it feels like you're driving off the map. The house itself sat on a thin stretch of cleared land, hemmed in by steep slopes of oak and hickory. Behind it, a dense wall of forest rose like a fortress. We moved in late summer, when the cicadas sang so loud it was almost a comfort. We were still unpacking when the old man from the next ridge over stopped by. He introduced himself as Mr. Pruitt, leaned heavy on his walking stick and eyed the house with the kind of look you give a snake you're not sure is dead. "You're in Miller Hollow now," he said, his voice rough like creek gravel. "Best keep your lights on after dark, and if you hear something call your name from the tree line, don't answer." I laughed, thinking he was just trying to spook the newcomers. Emily didn't laugh. It started small. A few nights after we moved in, I was stacking firewood behind the house when I heard Emily call from the back porch. "Hun, could you bring in the green tub from the truck?" I hollered back, "On it!" and headed toward the driveway. But when I rounded the corner, the truck was empty, and Emily wasn't on the porch. I found her in the kitchen washing dishes. "What tub?" she asked when I mentioned it. "The one you just asked me for." "I haven't been outside in an hour," she said, looking at me like I was pulling her leg. We both brushed it off, but a cold knot formed in my gut. Over the next 2 weeks, the voices came back. Sometimes it was Emily calling for me from the woods while she was still inside the house. Other times it was my own voice, echoing from somewhere near the barn, calling her name. At first, we told ourselves it was sound carrying strangely through the hollow. But there was something off. The voices were always close, but never quite right. Like someone was wearing our tones like a mask, and underneath it was something else. One foggy evening in early September, Emily and I were sitting on the porch when the smell of wet leaves and earth grew heavy in the air. That's when I saw it, just inside the tree line, near where the slope begins. A figure stood there. At first I thought it was a neighbor, but it was too still. The light was fading, but I could see the outline. Tall, too tall, its shoulders slightly hunched. It didn't move, didn't step forward or back. Just watched. "Do you see that?" I whispered. Emily nodded, her face pale. We stayed frozen for what felt like minutes, until the dusk swallowed the figure completely. A few nights later, I woke to the sound of knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the side of the house. I grabbed the flashlight and went to check, figuring it was a branch or maybe some raccoon. I stepped out onto the porch. Nothing. The woods were still. My breath puffed in the cool night air. I remember turning the beam toward the slope, and that's the last thing I remember before waking up on the couch. It was morning. My flashlight lay on the floor. Emily said she'd gone to bed before me and never saw me come in. According to the clock, I'd been outside for almost 2 hours. By late September, the hollow didn't feel like ours anymore. Doors we'd locked were found standing open. The motion light in the driveway would click on for no reason, but nothing was ever there. One night, Emily heard me in the bedroom talking. She thought I was on the phone until she realized I was asleep. She swears I was speaking in a voice that wasn't mine. Low, drawn-out syllables in a language she didn't recognize. We stopped going outside after dark. The worst night came in early October. The moon was bright enough to silver the tops of the trees, but the yard was in deep shadow. I was in the living room, flipping through an old hunting magazine, when I heard Emily call from outside. "Can you come here? I found something." The voice was hers, no doubt about it. Same pitch, same rhythm, but something inside me, something deep in my bones told me not to move. Then the voice came again, closer to the porch. "Come here, you need to see this." I forced myself to peek through the blinds. She, or it, was standing at the edge of the yard, just where the grass met the woods. The figure looked like Emily, but wrong in ways I couldn't name. Its head tilted at an odd angle. Its arms hung too long. It smiled, though the distance was too great for me to see teeth. I could feel the smile. Behind me, I heard the bathroom door open. Emily stepped out, fresh from a shower, her hair wrapped in a towel. "Who are you talking to?" she asked. I looked back toward the yard. The thing was gone. We lasted another week before packing up. We told people it was because the house needed too many repairs. But the truth was we couldn't stand the feeling anymore. On our last night, I stood on the porch and looked toward the slope. The woods were still. Then, just as I turned to go back inside, a voice floated up from the tree line. It was mine. Don't leave. We didn't sleep. We didn't even turn the lights off. At first light, we drove away and didn't look back. They say some hollows remember the people who passed through them. I think Miller Hollow remembers us. And maybe it doesn't like letting go. If you ever find yourself on a winding gravel road in the Appalachians, and you feel the air grow heavier, colder, and the woods seem to lean in, you might be in a place like Miller Hollow. And if you hear someone calling your name from the tree line, no matter how familiar it sounds, don't answer.